Joe Nuxhall fans and baseball fans, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if Joe Nuxhall interviewed Ellie De La Cruz? Okay, we know who it is. Well, let's say and Sal Stewart at the same time. And let's just add Brent Suter into that, and you'd have like 4 guys who love life and love Reds baseball. But the way Joe interviewed, that would have been a great 30-minute show. But the spirit of Joe Nuxhall is alive and well through the Miracle League, through the Joe Nuxhall scholarships, through the Joe Nuxhall Character Education Fund. And now that spirit is alive and well through this Ohio historical marker in the north end of Hamilton, where Joe was discovered at age 14 and pitched in Major League Baseball at age 15. Joe Nuxhall is a son of the North End, a man loved and respected in Hamilton, in Fairfield, in Reds Nation, and across the nation. This Ohio historical marker was brought to Hamilton through the efforts of Tim Spoonster, Jeff Gambrell, Brian Lenahan, all of whom lived in the North End. And there are a lot of folks to thank for this, including the North End Citizens for Community Action, the W.E. Smith Family Trust, Ohio History Connection, and of course Hamilton Parks Conservancy, which is the property where this marker has been placed. Tim Spoonster is going to speak to us about the history of the marker, and so this time, one of the folks who helped create this, Tim Spoonster. Tim? And I've got to do one thing. This is Mia Casano. She is a resident of the North End, and she's going to help unveil. And I've heard Mia's involved in a lot of North End events, so we thought, perfect for Mia to help us, okay? Sorry, Tim.
That's all right. Thank you, Mayor. Yep. Thanks, everybody, for coming. This is a big day. We worked on it for a long time. I was talking to Kim earlier that we started working together about bringing baseball for kids here to the North End 17 years ago. And this is something that we've had in mind all that time, and we've never given up on it. We started with a small group of people, and we were sitting around and we were talking about what can we do for the North End community. And we all thought, let's get kids on the baseball field. Well, it turned to be a pretty daunting thing, but we got it done, and we did it for 4 years. And there were people that just from this neighborhood banded together to do some amazing things. And this is a culmination of their efforts. This is something that they wanted to do because they wanted you to know that this place here is very special. And this neighborhood is willing to work to make it even more special. They're waiting for the community to come back and embrace Joe. Remember the days when we used to drive down to the ballpark? You'd have the car starting out from here, and there would still be in line from here, and the first car would be getting down to Crosley Field. We had those big celebrations. We had Hamilton Joe Nuxhall night. So we're hoping to get that tradition reestablished, and this is one of the things that we've done to do so. Now, I love telling this, so I'm going to tell it as briefly as I can, but I want you to look over there, and there is a house over on Vine Street, where I can imagine a young Joe Nuxhall came out the back door of his house and walked down to these fields with his dad to play ball with guys older than him, his dad's age, 38, rough and tough ball players. They came down here as Joe was, 14 at the time, over 6 foot, 190 pounds, and he could throw a fastball 90 miles an hour. Now, the country was involved in a world war. Everybody in the country responded to the call to battle. Major League Baseball players, 80% of them went off to join the armed services. The biggest names, Ted Williams, Bob Feller, Hank Greenberg, Yogi Berra, they all went out and they had served their country. The president said, we've got to continue baseball for the sake of the people here for their recreation. And so you're in a kind of a fix if you're an owner of a team, because you don't have 20 of the guys that you had on your roster yesterday. So as a part of the effort to fill that need, the Reds came out here to scout Kim's granddad, Orville, who was called Ox, who was a pretty burly pitcher at the time. And they offered him a contract. He said, I'm a grown man. I got a family. I got a job. I'm not going to Salt Lake City. But you ought to take a look at my sonny boy over here. And there he stood. You know, and it's just like one of those movies. Can you imagine? It's like a halo comes around Joe. It's like he's discovered. And they start talking to him. And over a year's period of time, he signed a contract with the Reds on the condition that he waited until he was finished with his 9th grade education. That was his parents' condition. On June 10th, 1944, the Reds were losing a game very badly. And Bill McKechnie was the manager. Bill McKechnie, who was a great manager and a great pitcher in his own right, decided to give Joe his opportunity. Joe went into the game, caught a couple outs, and then things kind of came apart because he was a 15-year-old kid on the mound in front of a lot of players. And he faced one of the greatest hitters in the league history, and that was Stan Musial, who hit him pretty hard. On that day, Joe Nuxhall was the most famous man in the United States. Everybody had his picture or his name on the newspaper. The youngest player in Major League Baseball. He was at the top of the world. 7 days later, the Reds sent him to Birmingham, Alabama, to the minor leagues as a 15-year-old kid. He went there and he didn't play so well, and so he didn't get to travel with the team. So the people of Birmingham adopted him. They took him in when the team was on the road. Hey, Joe, come on over to dinner, have supper with us. Because back in those days, we didn't have cell phones. They couldn't even make a telephone call. It was too expensive. You had to write letters. Eventually, Joe gave up that part of his career and came back to Hamilton High School, where he became all-state in football and basketball. And he led his teams to championships. But he hadn't given up yet. He started to play semi-pro ball. I love the stories of him hitchhiking from here up to Lima, Ohio, to play baseball on Saturdays and Sundays, and then having to hitchhike back here so he would be back in time for dinner. Eventually, he worked himself back to the Reds roster in 1952. And then he started to pitch for them pretty regularly. And he became an all-star. So now you see his career has gone from the top down, and now he's on his way back again. In 1955, Joe pitched probably some of the best baseball in the history of the All-Star game. He held the American League batters with Charlie Gehringer and Mickey Mantle and all those guys scoreless for 3 1/3 innings, and then the Reds, the National League was able to rebound and win the game in the last inning. So now he's an all-star, but his skill starts to leave him. By 1960, he's not getting as much work as he liked. He asked for his release. So he went to Kansas City. Kansas City at that time was pretty low on the totem pole, very low on the totem pole as far as places to play ball. I asked Kim's mom, I said, well, what did you think about that? She goes, it was great. Charlie Friendly, the owner, he was a very colorful man. He had a lot of parties. We had a lot of good times out there in Kansas City. But in 1961, the Reds won the National League pennant. Joe missed the chance to go with the Reds and play the Yankees in the World Series. The next year, he was out of baseball. He had no offers from any teams. He tried out with the Angels, I think in the Orioles. Nobody took him. So somebody in the Reds front office said, you know, we need relief pitching. Maybe we'd sign Joe to a minor league contract. It was San Diego. Yeah. So he got sent to San Diego, and when he went out there, he did the most amazing thing, I think, is he retooled himself as a baseball pitcher from a thrower to a skilled pitcher that could use the corners and off-speed pitches. And he came back and he pitched for the Reds. And then the next 2 years after he had been out of baseball, he pitched the best baseball of his life. A few years later, he got the opportunity to get into the broadcasting business as the voice of the Cincinnati Reds. He didn't want to leave baseball, but he did. He teamed up with Al Michaels, who we all still hear on TV, and also later on with the Hall of Famer broadcaster Marty Brennaman. In the course of that life, you see the ups and downs of life. You see persistence. You see the willingness to take a chance. 14-year-old kid says, yeah, I can do that. Put me on the major league roster. And then failure. Oh, that didn't get me. I'm back at it next week. Persistence, love of the game, himself on the radio to everybody. The old left-hander, rounding third and heading for home. And that is the theme of our markers you'll see here. Joe Nuxhall is the most beloved man in this part of the country. He is the most notable native son of the city of Hamilton. Through his life and his generosity, he did amazing things, and every time you mention his name to somebody, they can't help but smile. He's left a wonderful legacy for us, even though he's been gone almost 20 years. So we here at the North End, this little band of gypsies I like to call, got it on our mind that someday we wanted to bring attention to that fact, that this was a place that he came when he was 14 years old and was discovered by the Cincinnati Reds and became the youngest player in Major League history at 15 years old, of course, after he finished his 9th grade studies. So I want to thank you all for coming. Mr. Mayor, who's next on our agenda?
Well, I was going to introduce Craig Keller.
Okay, Mr. Keller.
Joe Nuxhall's a big part of Cincinnati Reds history, and Craig Keller, who's a good friend of Hamilton, and of course, former Fairfield City Council member, and now he's associated with the Reds Hall of Fame and Museum, and there are artifacts about Joe Nuxhall at that museum, which I think you could probably tell us about. He's also loves baseball. His grandson was in Williamsport with the West Side Little League. So, Craig Keller, give him a round of applause if you would, please.
Thank you for being here. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate being here. I appreciate you inviting me. I didn't know I was going to speak today until today, so I wrote some random notes here really fast. So anyway, what a beautiful day to have this today, right? Especially for a baseball lover and a lover of Joe Nuxhall. This brings back a lot of memories to myself. Played a lot of softball in these fields, so hopefully we can see that come back again. So I like what I see here as well. It's an honor to be here for the Reds Hall of Fame on behalf of Rick Walls, our executive director. I'm very pleased to be here, especially since I'm a native Hamiltonian. Of course, now living in Fairfield, kind of following in your dad's footsteps there, I guess, and by the way of Hamilton and Fairfield. But you know, my primary job with the Hall of Fame as a museum ambassador is generally doing education tours and doing public tours. And on that tour, one of our stops is in Crosley Terrace. And if you're familiar with Crosley Terrace, we have 4 statues there, one of which is Joe Nuxhall, of course, pitching on the mound. And when I stop there, that's the last person I speak of very proudly, and make it known generally to my tour group. Very proud that Joe represents Hamilton and the Cincinnati Reds in that capacity there at the ballpark in Crosley Terrace. The memory of Joe Nuxhall, I think, has come full circle here with this marker that we're going to unveil here fairly soon. And I think today is very appropriate to say that the old left-hander is rounding third and heading for home here. So in closing, if I can borrow another famous person's saying, one that's a good friend of yours and a good friend of Joe's, today this one belongs to Joe. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Two of the happiest times I've seen Joe Nuxhall, one was when Hamilton and Fairfield got together and create Joe Nuxhall Way. He was so proud of that, and you remember that, Craig, because we were together on that. Other time was that when Hamilton Westside made the Little League World Series for the first time in a long time. Man, we had like players in Corvettes going down to a big celebration, and Joe was in a Corvette going to a big celebration. And there were like Ohio State representatives and senators and all these publicly elected people. Well, Joe was very nice to us. He'd shake our hand and talk to us a little bit, those who were elected officials. But where he really sat down was that where all the players were, the Little League players, on a bench, probably 35 yards away from the rest of us, because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to sit with these young baseball players and talk baseball. Those are two things I remember a lot about Joe. Tim Spoonster wants to come up here and read some certificates that were sent to us, sent to Tim. One from the governor of the state of Ohio, Mike DeWine. Tim?
Let me tell you a little bit about the process. Writing for a historical marker is an endeavor in its own right. Every word that you'll see on this marker had to be verified with a reference. I can remember arguing with the state about, I can't remember if it was legacy or legend, and they said you can't use it because you don't have any proof of it. So our friend Brian Lenahan, who's a really savvy researcher, found a picture of Joe in a 1980s press book, and it said, the legacy of Joe Nuxhall. So we got the word legacy in there as a result of that. The word count is specific. We worked with Kim in getting the tone that the family wanted. We worked with like I said, we have probably over 80 references. And it was, like I said, a labor of love. We also wrote for grants, and we got one, I can't remember the name, let me see here. The W.E. Smith Family Charitable Trust, a historical organization here in Butler County. And we also were awarded a grant from the state of Ohio, from the Historic Ohio. They give out 2 every year, and we were honored to receive that. So every penny of this was paid through grants and local fundraising by the people of this neighborhood. So on the behalf of the governor of the state of Ohio, he chose me particularly, he did. I have a certificate here that I'd like to read, and Tony and Ray, if you'd come up, I want you to receive this on behalf of the North End neighborhood. Okay, now I'm going to read it. Okay. In the name and the authority of the state of Ohio, Mike DeWine and Jim Tressel, Governor and Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, do hereby officially recognize Joseph Henry Hamilton Joe Nuxhall Historical Marker. On behalf of the state of Ohio, we welcome all those gathered for the placement of an Ohio Historical Marker. Historical markers reflect and honor the people, places, and events associated with our state's rich history. And through this reflection, encourage appreciation of our past as we look to our future. We commend all those involved for ensuring our state's history is preserved and remembered, and we wish to extend our best wishes for a memorable event. On this 18th day of October 2025, Mike DeWine, Governor of the state of Ohio, Jim Tressel, Lieutenant Governor. Now, what I'm going to ask Tony and Ray to do is to receive this on behalf of the North End. And their store is a focal point, the community communications point. Everybody goes there. And we're going to frame that, we're going to hang that there so that the people of this neighborhood know that it was their effort and their dream that put this together. Okay? Now, I'm going to stay up here while I got one more for you. Now, the North End Citizens for Community Action is the nonprofit that the number of us formed back in 2007. And so they were awarded a certificate for their contributions to the placement of this marker. And I'm going to ask that Tony and Ray received this for the city citizens of the North End, and that we also display that in their store to remind the people here that what they do counts and that they have made a significant contribution to the city of Hamilton. Okay, more goodies. 3 men worked together, myself, Jeff Gambrell, and Brian Lenahan, to write this, to research it, to argue fine points. I have to tell you, Brian was very insistent that the last line of the first page read, "He faced Tan Musial." And every time we said, no, we don't have enough words, he'd go right back at it. So Jeff and Brian cannot be here today, but there are certificates for them for their help and their recognition by the state, and also one for myself, and I'll make sure that those get to them. And then there's one here left for the community of Hamilton, Ohio, for furthering the knowledge of our state's heritage by placing an Ohio historical marker to tell the story of Joseph Henry Hamilton Joe Nuxhall and his important place in Ohio history. Mr. Mayor, if you'd receive that for the city.
Thank you.
Whoops.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
And I'll thank the Historical Connection.
Yes. So, who's next? Thank you for your attention.
We will see to it that we do post this and have it available at all times for anyone that wants to view it and enjoy it.
All right, now's the time for the unveiling. All right, on 3. It's going to go flying pretty quick, I think. 1, 2, 3.
Wow, this is one of those terribly overwhelming moments because, you know, we're criers in the family. It's one of those genes Dad gave us and our grandpa, and it's tough not to be overwhelmed. I'm going to need a little help to kind of soften it up a little bit. And I thought, what would Dad do? What would he say? And I know the first thing he would do, he would bring like the cutest little outfit we have here. Would you come up here? We got to get her on camera real quick. Put that hat on. You put her little hat on. Come on up here. Maddie, is it? Come on up, Maddie. How you doing? How are you? Good. Good to see you. Wave to the camera there. Okay. All right. I love your outfit. Thanks for coming out. Okay. All right. Thank you. Great to have you. You can go back and sit. Thank you. So, gosh. Tim told the story so well. Tim, just a beautiful job with everything. Can't thank you enough for all your efforts on this. I, too, go back in time and think back in the 1940s and Dad and his brothers, Uncle Don and Bob and Gene, all getting together over there in Pine and Vine and walking over here and playing ball. I can picture them getting in an argument and who's chasing who home and getting mad, but next day forgetting it all and doing it all again. But what great memories of him growing up there must be, and it's one of those things, boy, if you could come back and talk to Dad, if he could come back, boy, I'd love to hear some of those stories of playing on the grounds out here. But also go right over to across the street there, the street naming. That was such a big moment in Dad's life. What now, nearly 30 years ago. I knew that was probably the biggest thing in his life, because, and I think, why get so emotional? I think it's because I know what it meant to Dad. You know, he was always embarrassed by awards and so on, and I think it's because he was just so humble. He appreciated the gift he had to play baseball and the platform, and he used it for good. And he loved his people of Hamilton. And now here we are, this many years later. That same love is coming back to him again. So he would be so touched by this, as we are the family. There's nothing that meant more to him. Playing baseball and broadcasting and traveling all over the country was great, but trust me, the people of Hamilton meant more than anything. This is where his roots were firmly planted. I always say the branches went out to Fairfield and to Cincinnati, but the main roots were planted right here on this field. So on behalf of the family, all of us, and my dad, of course, we just can't thank you enough for this amazing honor for all of us. Thank you all again. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to try. Oh, he thinks I'm going to cry. This excites me to no end because I am an avid preservationist. I served on the Cincinnati Preservation Association board for far too many terms. They tried to kick me off and it never worked. I just kept on because I love preserving history. And to have Dad as part of this history is mind-blowing. I never dreamed we'd see a Ohio historical marker with his name on it. So thanks to Tim and everybody else involved, we can't thank you enough. Hamilton, wow. I've been coming to Hamilton more in the last 5 years than the last 30 years because of what's happening. I'm always at the fitness center. I've got so many friends that still live here, and it's just a treat to come here all the time. I'm here more than I am downtown Cincinnati. Don't tell my Cincinnati friends that, but I just love you all. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So Joe's famous phrase is rounding third and heading for home. How about we all say at the same time on three, rounding third and heading for home. 1, 2, 3. Rounding third and heading for home. Thank you all for being here, making this a very special day in North End of Hamilton. Thank you.